It's interesting how some people still try to force certain ideas on their fans, just because they don't want to accept what's already evident. Lately, it's become fashionable for supporters of the jungkook ship to use the word introverted as if that justifies everything they say about Jungkook and Jimin's relationship. They use it as an excuse to interpret behaviors or moments that clearly don't have the meaning they want to give them. What's really bothering them isn't that they have a different opinion or prefer another ship, because everyone is free to imagine and support whatever they want, but that in their desperation to make their narrative seem valid, they end up using Jungkook in an unhealthy way. They say they love him and support him, but often they put him in uncomfortable situations or even expose him to ridicule just to fit their fantasy. And that's not true love. Loving someone also means respecting their decisions, their space, their relationships, and their privacy. Not making up stories that involve them that are pointless and often make them look bad in front of others. For example, there's a well-known moment where Taehyung is sitting on Jungkook's lap, and he doesn't look uncomfortable at all. On the contrary, he seems happy, comfortable, and calm, as if that space were natural for both of them. These kinds of scenes aren't common among friends, at least not in such a natural way, much less with the frequency or energy with which they occur between them. No one is saying this is definitive proof that they're a couple, but when you add it to everything they've shared publicly, the picture that emerges is quite clear. Taehyung and Jungkook have a close and meaningful relationship, and for many, including those of us who support Taehyung, that relationship goes beyond friendship. That's why it's surprising that some still try to deny these signs, and even more so that they do so by rewriting what really happened. Like when they take out old photos, edit them, mix them with others that aren't even from the same place or time, and present them as if they were new evidence. It's a constant effort to divert attention and create an alternative version of reality, but you don't have to do much research to notice the inconsistencies. For example, in some of these posts, the seats, doors, or type of plane don't even match, which in itself makes it clear that there's something strange about the way they try to justify what they say. The relationship between Taehyung and Jungkook doesn't need to be explained with grandiloquent words or defended with forced theories. Jungkook has always shown special attention toward Taehyung, and Taehyung, for his part, has made it clear on many occasions how much he values and cares for him. Of course, not everyone has to see it the same way. But we also have to be honest about what is shown publicly. Denying those moments or downplaying them simply because they don't fit with the narrative someone wants to defend is pointless. There are moments that make clear what many people still try to deny or simply don't want to accept. One of them is when Jungkook said, in that famous livestream, that there can't be 5 Taehyungs because there's only one of him. In that same moment, he talked about how handsome, talented, and brilliant he is. Jungkook was acknowledging everything Taehyung represents to him, and at the same time, he made it clear that their connection isn't something recent or superficial. Jungkook has always thought about Taehyung and hasn't hesitated to show it in public. That phrase was also a way of reminding everyone that Taehyung will always be important to him, and even though he didn't say it directly, it was clear that there is a strong bond between them. Jungkook not only admires, values, and respects him, but he constantly chooses him. When you observe their interactions without prejudice, without trying to twist the facts, you can see that there is a shared history between them. Something similar happened with the airplane incident. Many people continue to try to hide it or give it another meaning, but the truth is that there are images and records that clearly show how Taehyung was sitting on Jungkook's lap. It was clear that both were calm, comfortable, with that naturalness that comes with true trust and closeness. These kinds of situations can't be forced, nor are they seen between people who only share a common friendship. You see that between two people who understand each other, who have affection for each other, who know that each is there for the other without needing to constantly demonstrate it. Many people thought that the fact that Jungkook and his favorite were together during military service meant they would be together all the time or that their closeness had some deeper meaning. But in the end, it was all a matter of business decisions. The company sought to keep the jungkook narrative active, using every opportunity to generate content that would sell, like the show Are You Sure? And while it's true that the show had its beautiful moments, especially seeing Jungkook participating in different activities, we mustn't forget that many of those decisions don't come directly from him. Jungkook fulfills what his contract establishes, like any other artist within an entertainment company. That entails participating in certain projects, being with certain people, and following certain strategies. But fulfilling a professional obligation doesn't mean he's making emotional choices. Over time, and despite what other spaces have tried to portray, Jungkook has continued to stay close to Taehyung. When they're together, the energy changes, there's a different vibe, and they understand each other even without speaking. It's also evident that when it comes to generating content for the public, the company always chooses the relationships it considers most profitable, as it has done on many occasions with Jungkook. But the reality behind all of that remains the same. The real connection is between Jungkook and Taehyung. It's with him that Jungkook has created authentic memories, and it's with him that he feels most free, most himself. There may be people who don't like to hear it or who prefer to believe otherwise, but denying what's right in front of you just to continue defending an argument doesn't change the facts. And this isn't about rejecting anyone, or saying that other relationships aren't important, but when someone speaks so fondly about another person so often, as Jungkook does with Taehyung, it can't be ignored. Especially when there are clear records that, even when the company tries to steer things in another direction, Jungkook ends up revealing who is truly important to him. What's also worrying is that some people continue to use the favorite as the center of their argument, as if everything revolves around him. They place him in a position where he seems to always be in the middle, as if his closeness to Jungkook were proof of something else. But that only shows that there's a constant need to prove something that actually has no basis. Because if something were true, there wouldn't be any need to force photos, videos, theories, or programs. There's something noticeable between Taehyung and Jungkook even when they don't say anything, a way of being together that needs no explanation because it feels so natural that it seems like they live in their own world where one moves and the other simply follows, where one's touch always finds a response from the other as if everything between them were effortlessly synchronized. It doesn't matter if they're surrounded by people, in front of a camera, or simply sharing a space. There's always something in the way they carry themselves that makes it clear that they are connected on a level that not everyone understands but that anyone can notice if they observe closely. It's not about grand gestures or declarations, because what there is between them is built in the details, in how they seek each other out without looking, in how they settle next to each other as if it were the most natural thing in the world, in how they choose to be together without anyone asking them to. Jungkook doesn't have to say that his place is by Taehyung's side, because he already demonstrates it with every choice, with every moment shared, with every time his actions speak louder than any words. And even though outsiders may try to reframe that narrative, use the favorite to maintain a certain image, play with marketing or public ties, there's something about what Jungkook does that always brings him back to Taehyung. Theirs doesn't feel staged. It doesn't feel like an act or part of a script because there's a very clear difference between what's done for the camera and what happens when two people are truly connected. And that difference is seen in the naturalness, in how they react when they're together, in how every gesture, every glance, and every touch seems effortless, as if it simply happens without much thought, as if no one else is around. That spontaneity can't be faked, it can't be manufactured, or maintained for so many years if there's no real truth behind it. The relationship between them has changed over time, but instead of becoming more distant or more formal, it's gained depth. It's no longer just the closeness of colleagues or friends, but a relationship sustained by trust, by mutual care, by an intimacy that doesn't need to be explained because it manifests itself in how they are there for each other without making it obvious. They can go days without sharing a screen, and yet when they meet again, that energy is still there, intact, as if they had never been apart, as if one of them only showing up for the other to settle in next to them. There are those who think this is all part of the spectacle, that what they show together is fan service, but fan service has a pattern, it repeats itself, it feels calculated, and what happens between Taehyung and Jungkook is nothing like that. It doesn't follow a formula, it doesn't respond to a need from the audience, it doesn't only appear when cameras are on, but rather arises spontaneously, often in the simplest moments, in those seconds that remain on the fringes of the shows but end up saying much more than any performance. Those moments don't need to be edited or highlighted to be meaningful. The bond between them is also evident in how they understand each other without speaking, in how they anticipate each other, in how a simple expression or gesture is enough for the other to know what's going on. And that's not something that's built overnight or acted out in front of cameras. It's something that only comes with time, with coexistence, with the affection that is cultivated in everyday life, in what isn't seen, in what isn't said, but that remains there, present in every interaction. And although the years have brought changes, new dynamics, more responsibilities, and different ways of showing themselves to the public, what there is between them has not changed, it remains solid, it remains real, even when things around them try to divert that attention in other directions, like when Jungkook is associated with the favorite for strategic reasons or to maintain a certain type of narrative that suits him. But what he demonstrates time and time again, without needing words, is that his energy, his comfort, his most honest way of being, he always has it when he is with Taehyung.